and welcome back to a new edition of Growing Kentucky's Leaders. We have a great guest today. We have Chapel Tinius. She is the 2024 Miss Kentucky. She is a native of Bowling Green. She's passionate about arts, is a talented musician. She is a philanthropist that champions some great causes, mostly about veterans. She's a graduate of Belmont University, and she will be a familiar face to many of you all this year around Kentucky agriculture events and functions. So, Chapel, welcome to our podcast, and tell us more about who you are and the role of Miss Kentucky.
Well, first, thank you so much for having me. This is really an honor. I grew up hearing about FFA. I was never really involved in it, just where I grew up in more of a suburban area. But my mom was an FFA sweetheart back in her day in Metcalfe County. So I grew up hearing about FFA and all of those things. So it's an honor to get to be a part of that legacy now and on this podcast. That's really exciting. But a little bit about me, like you said, I'm from Bowling Green. I grew up on a small horse farm, so that's where I am. And then just getting to spend a lot of time around there. I'm a graduate of Bowling Green High School. Go Purples. So I loved growing up in Bowling Green, but now I actually work for the Veterans Administration Hospital out of Lexington, Kentucky. And it's absolutely a joy and honor to get to do that. Now, for the year, however, I am on an extended leave doing the role of Miss Kentucky full-time, which is an absolute dream come true. It's something that I've thought about since I was probably 8 years old. That's one of the first times that I ever came in contact with a Miss Kentucky, and it's been a dream of mine ever since. So it's a huge honor to get to take on this role. Absolutely love getting to work with the Kentucky Department of Agriculture. It's been so much fun so far. We've really hit the ground running, and I can't wait to see what else we continue to do this year.
Yeah. What is the role of Miss Kentucky, just for our listeners, Chapel? Tell them, what will your year look like?
So my official title and role as Miss Kentucky is the spokesperson for Kentucky Proud. And that is all of the products that are sourced from here in the state of Kentucky. And so I get to go around and talk about our Kentucky Proud products, like things that are grown and raised here in the state of Kentucky. There's actually a Kentucky Proud store right down this road from me where I am, Cheney's Dairy Barn. If you all are ever in Bowling Green, great Kentucky Proud resource. So I get to go around and talk to students about Kentucky Proud products, shopping local, really making sure that we're investing in our local agriculture, investing in our local businesses, because it doesn't just have to be, Kentucky Proud isn't just farm products. It's really anything that's produced in the state of Kentucky. So I get to go around and talk to students about that and how that also relates to life. For example, healthy living, making healthy food choices, and how you can shop local to make sure that you find those. So not only are you investing in your personal health, but you're also investing in the economic health of your community. I also take it a step further. I get to speak to students across the state of Kentucky, and not just students, but really just anyone across the state of Kentucky, about my community service initiative, which is Operation Gratitude. It's providing awareness and appreciation to our United States military and veterans. I'm the granddaughter of 2 World War II veterans, and one of them was a triple amputee. So I grew up knowing the impact that war can have on a family and what we need to do as private citizens to continue to thank our veterans, thank those who serve every single day, who have served in the past, and even take it a step further in thanking their families as well, because the families give a huge sacrifice. So there's a lot of things that I get to do as Miss Kentucky, and we get to have a lot of fun. One of my favorite things is that I get to take my fiddle everywhere that I go. One of Kentucky's well-known instruments. I'm a fiddle player, so I get to take that with me and use that to entertain and educate and storytell about all of these different things.
Well, we appreciate you being an advocate for all of these causes. We are near and dear to Kentucky Proud and know the importance that it has on FFA members and their families and operations, but to Kentucky in general. But we know it's a long road to becoming Miss Kentucky, and it takes a lot of work and practice and so much growth. And so please tell our listeners, what is the process of competing to be Miss Kentucky, and how did that process help you grow as a leader?
Oh, goodness. I would not be the person I am today if it weren't for the Miss Kentucky organization. Because there's so many different elements of competition. For example, there's a 10-minute private interview with the judges. From the time I started competing at the age of 13 to now, that's been over 10 years where I've gotten to learn
how to interview, a skill that's not really taught anywhere. And there's so much value in that, just learning how to talk to a small group of people, and then even extending that to the onstage question portion of competition, where you speak in front of an audience of 100, 200, 500 people, and you just talk on the spot. There's a lot that I've learned through the Miss Kentucky organization. We just recently, the Miss America organization as a whole just brought back lifestyle and fitness. There for a little bit, it wasn't a category of competition, but when we brought it back, it really put at the forefront of our minds that, health and wellness, both physical, mental, and spiritual health, are all so important. And so we focus on that. And that's a lot of time outside of just stepping on a stage and walking in fitness wear. There's a lot of effort and work that goes into that to take care of your bodies. Yeah, like I said, there's been a lot that I've learned through this organization. One of my favorite portions of competition is talent. Like I said, I'm a fiddle player, so I played the fiddle for my talent, and then that one took a lot of practice as well. It took a lot of arrangement and playing around. My piece that I perform on stage is self-arranged, so it's a compilation of a lot of different things that I've learned over the years of playing the violin. So it has a little bit of old-time fiddling, a little bit of rock and roll, a little bit of bluegrass, and some classical music as well. So getting to play around with that and then honing in on that talent, really spending hours practicing this one piece, making sure that I can get it to be the best that it can be. And not only just that piece, but learning other pieces as well, because you have to continue to develop skills. There's been a lot that I've learned through the Miss Kentucky organization, but I would say overall, my favorite place that I've grown is service. Like I mentioned earlier, my community service initiative is Operation Gratitude. And each participant in the Miss Kentucky organization has their own community service initiative. So we all get to take these things that we're personally passionate about and impact our communities in that way. So being a part of the Miss Kentucky organization, I've gotten to grow my platform over the past 10 years. And it's really been such a joy to get to cultivate that in the community of Bowling Green and even across the state of Kentucky, and just using simple actions to provide gratitude. I think the biggest thing that I've learned and that I try to share with other people is that every single person has a gift that they've been given, and how you utilize that to serve others is completely up to you. I love to take my fiddle into nursing homes and veterans' homes to just share music with our veterans. And that's probably where my love for all of this started. Getting to use that gift and getting to see it brighten somebody's day. It's so simple, but getting to use that and then even expand on that. I also run. So I've run half marathons to help raise money for veterans resources. I've gotten to hit the ground running with a nonprofit Carry the Load, where we walk. One year we walked from West Point, New York to Dallas, Texas, to remember those who have fallen in service to our country. And in those moments, you get to talk to families and comrades of somebody who have lost someone due to war. So you get to make all of these really cool connections, and you learn just about people, which is what all of this organization is about. It's just learning about your community, getting involved, and getting invested in who's around you.
Yeah. Chapel, that's really incredible. And I think, if students are watching this, that, in FFA, we have a lot of preparation for a big event. You prepare for a competition, you prepare for officer interviews, but you have really done that. I think about Miss Kentucky and the years of work women put in to be, you see this small snippet of them on the stage, but it is years of work and culmination that gets there. And that's very admirable for sure. So you've mentioned several times about philanthropy and things that you're passionate about. We're a philanthropy too. And I want you to just share, maybe, you've talked about, share more about why you choose to support veterans and some of the things that you've done, even when you were a student and younger, to help support something that you really care about.
Yeah. So like I mentioned earlier, I'm the granddaughter of not one, but two World War II veterans. And I grew up holding my papaw's metal hooks instead of where his hands should have been. So whenever I would go on walks with him, it's a very different feeling. And now my papaw was fully capable of doing everything that a normal grandfather could do. I mean, he made sure he was very stubborn and in a good way. And I always remember him saying that the day he was injured was the luckiest day of his life because he lived. And so he taught us to approach life with the spirit of gratitude. And that's where the name for my platform comes from, is Operation Gratitude. That really stems from what he taught us. But growing up with that, I saw too that, there are some resources that veterans are lacking. And when I was 7, my papa actually gave me his Purple Heart for safekeeping. And that was because I had just recently done a service project where my birthday party was dedicated to all of my friends bringing in a storybook and, at the time, a VHS tape to send overseas to deployed military members so that they could record themselves reading a bedtime story to their kids. And that's just such a small step that we could take. Over the years, like while I was in school, I got to expand on this platform, which was really fun. I got to get other students involved. And one of the simplest things that we did was just was write letters saying, "Dear hero, thank you, hero. Thank you for your service." Actions like that we would then send to an organization called the Honor Flight Network. And the Honor Flight sends veterans on a trip to Washington, D.C. for a day to see the memorials that were built in honor of them. And it's absolutely cost-free for the veteran. When they come home, they're handed this big pile of letters that are written from community members. And so getting to see that firsthand, because I'd actually gotten to serve as a guardian on an honor flight, which means basically I walked around with a veteran all day and made sure that my veteran had everything that they needed, water, making sure that they were staying hydrated, because you remember it was really hot that day in DC, making sure if they needed something, a snack or something, if their blood sugar dropped. So just taking care of the veteran all day and just getting to learn about their story. I remember coming home and seeing my veteran's eyes just filled with tears. I mean, he was 86 years old, and it's very rare that you see an 86-year-old veteran cry. And I knew in that moment that we were doing something good. So my passions just continued, because that's who it's all about. It's about saying thank you to those who put their life on the line for us. Sorry, I get choked up sometimes when I talk about this. Like I said, it's very near and dear to my heart. I remember my papa telling me one time that he was denied life insurance 5 times because nobody thought he was going to live. And then every year on his birthday, he would remind us that he outlived every life insurance agent who denied him coverage. So making sure that our veterans have their resources is so important. And when we can propel that by raising funds and doing all of those things, that's the most important thing that we can do. We can put our actions behind our thank you, behind our actual words. And that's what keeps me going every day. It's remembering people like my papa, remembering people like Leo, who was the veteran on honor flight, and so many more. It's not just about them, it's about everyone that I've met along the way.
Well, it's evident your passion, and we thank you for sharing that and letting our students and our listeners learn about the philanthropy you're so passionate about. And I hope our listeners are taking away from this that, any kind of philanthropy, it does make a difference. And we talk a lot about like finding your passions and really moving forward with that. And so thank you for being an example for so many young people and old people and people of all generations, that it is important to give back, and it does make a difference. Well, another thing that we have in common, Chapel, is our relationship with the Kentucky Department of Agriculture. So not only are we both passionate about philanthropies in our organizations, but we also work a lot alongside of KDA, or the Kentucky Department of Agriculture. So share with our listeners, like, what is that relationship between KDA and the Miss Kentucky organization?
Yeah, like I said, I'm the official spokesperson for all Kentucky Proud products, but this has been a long-standing relationship for the Miss Kentucky organization and KDA. It's actually going on, this is almost 25 years. I just it started in 2000 with Heather French Henry, who was our Miss Kentucky 1999, and then went on to be Miss America 2000. So this has been almost a 25-year relationship, which is cool. And we've seen it grow over years and years. As Miss Kentucky, I get to travel all over the state and speak for the parts of the Kentucky Department of Agriculture. I get to go into schools. That's probably what I'm looking forward to the most, is going and speaking in schools. We do school assemblies. We do the Mobile Science Center. You'll see me at the state fair. I mean, it is a little bit of everything. And what I love about it is that it hits home for me, growing up on a small farm, and then growing up going to Metcalfe County, Kentucky, and being on my grandpa's farm where the cattle were. I mean, it's just been such a fun process to get to be a part of. And there are so many things that I'm learning about Kentucky agriculture that I had no idea about. So there's also something, it just speaks to how much we have to learn about what's around us. And that's the most important part about being Miss Kentucky is sharing who's around you and looking at, things that are, it's not all on your phone. It's taking your eyes up and looking at the world around you, looking at the people who are working hard in your communities to provide you food, to provide you resources. And it's a really cool relationship, one that I am definitely very thankful to get to be a part of and learn through, and then get to share what I've learned with the state of Kentucky.
Yeah. So tell us, what are some things you've learned about Kentucky agriculture that have just been surprising for you?
Oh my goodness. Okay. There are a lot of programs in Kentucky Department of Agriculture that I didn't know that we had. For example, we got to do what's called the Sunshine class the other day, which kind of goes back into philanthropy. I didn't know that this was a program, and it's by far one of my favorite things I've got to do as Miss Kentucky so far is be a part of this class. So back, I guess it was about 2 weeks ago now, I went to Frankfurt and they had their kickoff Sunshine class for the year. And the Sunshine class provides an opportunity for citizens ages 6 to 22 who have special needs to be able to learn how to show sheep and learn more about sheep in Kentucky Department of Agriculture and how sheep play into Kentucky's agriculture. And it was just such a heartwarming moment. I mean, each participant was paired with a mentor who has done sheep showing for parts of their life. And it was such a cool process to get to watch. I didn't know that's how you showed a sheep. I mean, I grew up showing horses, but it's a little bit different. I mean, there are elements that are the same, but then I was like, I don't know what's going on. Like, this is the coolest thing. I love sheep. I'm not going to lie. One of my favorite animals. So I think that was probably one of my favorite things that I got to learn about Kentucky Department of Agriculture and just Kentucky agriculture in general. And it also speaks to the heart of KDA is that they really are people first. And I think that's just a really, really cool thing that I've gotten to learn so far.
Well, you're going to continue to learn so many things. Agriculture, I think the one thing that you will take away at the end of your year is it is a small world in Kentucky agriculture, and people are always helping each other out and rooting each other on. So we look forward to seeing you at many other Kentucky agriculture events throughout the year.
Thank you.
And, you kind of talk about walking in as Miss Kentucky into these new experiences, and you're doing new things all the time, all day, every day. And that takes a lot of confidence, and it takes a lot of humble confidence too, to walk into those events and be willing to learn, but, be confident as Miss Kentucky. So we have a lot of students, as Sheldon mentioned, that listen to our podcast. What advice would you give to them about really leaning into your confidence?
Leaning into your confidence. Going back to what I said earlier, it's kind of knowing that every person is equipped with some kind of gift that they're able to use then to serve others. For me, that was always music. And it's also transitioned into running a little bit. That's something that I've gotten to use. But some people are given the gift of art. Some people are given the gift of speaking. Some people are given the gift of mentorship, encouragement, just so many different things that you may not think are a gift, but something that is a part of you. And I think knowing those gifts that you've been given, and then that propels your confidence. And I really believe that, because when you figure those things out about yourself and you lean into, okay, I'm a great encourager, I'm a great speaker, I'm a great mentor, I'm a good listener, I'm a good follower, I may also be a good leader. Knowing those skills and assets that you have, you know what you bring to the table, and therefore that really propels your confidence and allows you to use that to serve your community.
That's great advice.
That's great. So, Chapel, you will be attending this year's Blue and Gold Gala. It's September 21st at the Steelwalk Hotel in Louisville. People are invited to buy a ticket or a table, but one of the things that we have traditionally auctioned in our silent auction is a school visit with Miss Kentucky, and that then you will have lunch with a special student. So that's so great, and it's always been a wonderful item that folks have gotten to plug in. So what is special maybe about those school visits? How many school visits does Miss Kentucky typically do in a year? And why are they so fun?
Oh goodness. I mean, there's hundreds that we do in a year. I'm not sure of an exact number, but I remember at Mallory, our previous Miss Kentucky, getting and talking with her, seeing all of her updates. I mean, she was in a different school all the time. And then I also had the opportunity to be Miss Kentucky's teen in 2016. So I watched firsthand my Miss Kentucky, Laura Jones at the time, going into so many different schools. And it was so cool to get to watch. My favorite part, though, and actually I did a semi-school visit the other day. I went to a theater camp here in my hometown. My favorite part is the questions, hands down. You just never know what people are going to ask you. And that's the beauty of it. That's the fun part of it. It's just engaging with the people around you because you learn so much about different perspectives. You learn about how people's brains work in a way that, yours may not. And that's one of the gifts of life is that you are surrounded by people that you get to learn from, whether they're 5 years old or 95 years old. The questions are by far my favorite part because you just never know what people are going to ask and you never know what you're going to learn.
Yeah. I'm sure that is very true, especially with elementary school students that you get to spend a lot of time with.
Okay.
Well, Chapel, we always ask our guests on the podcast the same 3 questions. First one's about leadership. You are a leader amongst your peers. What is the best piece of leadership advice that you've ever been given?
Start each day with a grateful heart. And then also my papa, like I said, my papa used to tell us that all the time. And it's about adopting this mindset of humility and gratitude. And I think when you go in with humility, knowing that these moments are gifts, it allows you to open your heart to being a good leader. And the other thing too, is that he always used to say we were given 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. So always listen before you speak, because like I said earlier, you just have the opportunity to learn from so many people around you. You're given a lot of different inputs, and then you're able to kind of chew on all of those and make the best decision moving forward. So always listen before you speak.
That's a great one. We all need to practice that every day. So good. So, we're a philanthropy. It's all about giving back, but we want to give you the opportunity to maybe shout out somebody who has poured back into you. So who would you like to recognize today?
I would love, there's a older lady in my hometown. Her name is Judy. And she has basically been like a grandmother to me my whole entire life. She was a good friend of my parents. And then it was crazy. She's always supported me in every single thing that I've done. We are not related by blood, which is one of the coolest things. She's poured into me my whole entire life. And I'm so, so grateful for her. I mean, she came to every horse show, to every theater production. I say came to, she does. She still comes to every single one of my performances, she came to every single night of Miss Kentucky. And it was so crazy. We didn't realize this until probably, I think it was 2021. I had competed in Miss Kentucky that year, and I had known that Judy had competed in Miss Kentucky before. But what we didn't know is that she had also competed at what's called the National Sweetheart Pageant, which is where all of the first runner-ups from the different states will go to this little tiny town in Hudson, Illinois, and compete. So I didn't know this until I had been first runner-up at Miss Kentucky. And I was like, I get to go to the National Sweetheart Pageant. This is so cool. Turns out Judy had gone. And we had no idea. She had never told us any of this. And she was like, thinking about it, I did that. I was like, this is the coolest experience that we've gotten to share together that we had no idea worlds were going to collide that way. And I just loved getting to she came along with us every step of the way. I mean, she was very involved in that journey. And like I said, I would just love to give her a shout out because she's poured into every single moment that I've been a part of.
That's really special. If you do not have a generational friendship, you should. To anyone who's listening, they are so special and great. So I'm glad that you get to experience that. The last question we always ask our guests is kind of a silly one. It can be silly or serious, but it's just, what is something that you're loving right now that's helping you grow? So, I mean, it could be a book or a habit or anything, gadget. What's something you're loving that's helping you grow?
There are 2 things. Running. I've mentioned that a couple of times, but I absolutely love to run. I know that is very rare, but that is something that's helping me grow right now. And what I'm learning to love specifically in running is running without music.
Okay.
Never thought I would be one of those people. I looked at my cousin a couple of years ago, and she was going on a run with me, and she didn't run with headphones or anything. And at that time, I was like, how do you do this?
Mhm.
I understand. It just gives you so much peace of mind where you just get to be in the beautiful presence of the world and just really get to focus on the nature that's around you, to focus on your body, kind of how you're feeling. It gets you time to think. You don't have all of this noise around you. But for me, it's also given me a lot of time to just spend with God, which I think has been really, really cool and really special. That's something that's very important to me as my faith. And so getting to take that into that element of running and go on these times where I just get to sit and think and talk has been a really beautiful gift. And that's one of the things that's helping me grow right now, because it's providing me a lot of guidance in a time that can be very hectic, especially in the job of Miss Kentucky. It's so busy. Just getting to take that 30 minutes and spend there has been a huge gift that's helping me grow right now.
So that's so good. Great. That seems so hard to me to run without music. I'm like, wow, that is challenging. Well,
At first, it was a shock to my system. I'm just like, okay, we can do this.
yeah.
You just
I
got
know it's really peaceful though once you're in your flow.
yeah.
Part of it. That's great. Well, Treble, thank you so much for just being with us today. I have just loved getting to know you in our conversation, and we just really look forward to working with you in all kinds of ways this year.
Thank you. Thank you all again for having me. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah. So one more thing, if Kentucky FFA members see you out and about, what would you like them to do? Are they free to come and say hello? What's that like?
Selfie, follow us on Instagram, all of the things. I would absolutely love to take time to talk to you, for sure. Yes, please come up and say hi.
Okay, well, I hope you meet a lot of wonderful Kentucky FFA members. And thanks so much for being with us. We'll see you next time on the Growing Kentucky's Leaders.
Growing Kentucky's Leaders is a podcast brought to you by the Kentucky FFA Foundation. Our music is performed by Bourbon County FFA member Joe Fritch. Artwork is by Julie Fritch Creative. Your hosts are Sheldon McKinney and Ruth Ann Fink, and you can find us on all social platforms at Kentucky FFA.